To protect against SQL injection attacks, you should not use the user input value that you might be using in your queries just like that. Instead, just as before, don't take the user input like that, escape it instead. Use the escaped user input, which simply means if you're looking for an author name and there are words like select or drop in that author name, it's probably not the name of the author, and you want to get rid of the overall command or of these malicious parts. And the good thing here is that SQL injection attacks are so common that most SQL packages which you might be using, no matter if it's for Node or for other programming languages, have built-in protection. Here I'm just working around that built-in protection. You might recall, for example, that earlier in the course, when I introduced you to SQL and the MySQL package here, we didn't build queries like this. We did not use this template string feature and inject values into it like this. Instead, we used question marks, just as I'm doing it down here, for inserting values. And we should always use question marks, because if you do, the values that will be placed for those question marks will be automatically escaped by the MySQL package. So if here I switch from this to this with the question mark, I can go down here and when I send the query, set my value for the author like that. So this is then the value that will be used in place of this question mark, but it will be escaped first by the MySQL package. So if we now save this, and I quickly recreate this table which I dropped. So I recreate this comments table with its ID, which is auto-incrementing, and with the author field, which is a varchar, and not null, and the text, which is a text, which is not null. If I recreate this table, apply this, and here, then you will see that if you go back to your discussion, to localhost 3000/discussion, I can of course again enter values here, and that works. And I can still find all comments or just the one by manu. Of course, manu has no comments yet, so I don't find anything there. For max, it works, or for no value, it works. But if I try that same trick from before again, if I take that malicious value here and I insert this, nothing happens. It just doesn't find any authors for this strange name, but if I then thereafter again find authors without a filter, I do find my content again. And in MySQL Workbench, if we refresh here, the table is also still there. Because now when using this question mark here and letting the MySQL package inject the actual value into the query, we don't run into that problem. And actually the MySQL package also has another protection step, which I had to disable to show you this example here. You should always use these question marks for adding values into your queries, but in addition, what I did before in this database config I gave to you is here in this config, I actually set multiple statements to true. That is not the default. The default, if you don't set this option, is that it's false. And this does what the name implies. If it's false, so if we have the default setting, and you would try to run multiple SQL statements at once, for example, because you tried to send this as an author name, then even if you did use the approach from before, without the question mark, the MySQL package would block it because it's not willing to execute more than one SQL statement at once. And the one SQL statement here would be selecting that author by name. This here would already be the second statement. So you have multiple layers of protection built in, and you shouldn't work around them. I did it here to make you aware of this attack pattern though, so that you don't accidentally run into this when you have some other use case where you do want to actually allow multiple statements and where you might build your query string as I showed it to you before, where you directly inject your values into the string. Don't do that. Strongly consider sticking to the default of having one statement per query, and use the question marks for marking placeholders that should be replaced with concrete values, because then those values are escaped for you and therefore you protect against SQL injection.